Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. We'll now proceed to the section on crisis management in the digital economy, dealing with cyber threats. Cyber threats are an omnipresent danger to businesses. Effective crisis management is critical to mitigate the impact of cyber attacks and prevent further damage. And this preparation sometimes goes beyond cyber incident response to address the entire crisis. In this section, we welcome questions from the audience and encourage interaction. So whether you are on site or participating virtually, please feel free to sign into Zoom and type your question into the Q&A pod. When you registered earlier to attend the forum, you'd have received the Zoom link for this section on email. So just retrieve the link from there. Thank you. Now, may I pass the floor to Mr. Morris Wangs. He is Head of Incubation Engineering Zero Trust and Secure Services Edge of Cisco EMEA. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Mr. Morris Wangs.
To see all of you in the room. So when they came up with that topic, I said like, oh bloody hell, they are going to open Pandora's box for me, because like I'm a critical thinker and I'm always want to start solutions, and that is always like, all right, that is a very broad topic. And they said like, you can talk about everything. And I said like, okay, let's talk about a human touch. So that's normally the moment when marketing is starting to get sweaty hands and saying like, oh, damn, he's getting on stage and he's having like a presentation, and he was able to dodge all the marketing slides. So that is like where they are asking me at least put in a disclaimer, so that that's my personal opinion. It's not necessarily reflect all the company on that side. So let me introduce myself a bit. Who am I? I'm Moritz Wenz, as you heard. I'm the head of incubation engineering in EMEA. So we are incubating technologies like zero trust and secure access or secure services edges. For Cisco, I'm with Cisco for over 15 years, long time Cisco person. I'm a Cisco Live speaker, as you can see, which makes me always personally proud, because that is like kind of pretty heavy on duty for like getting it sorted. I'm living in beautiful Switzerland. I picked pictures with snow because like I thought tropical climate with snow would be a little bit of a refreshing part. And we are doing a lot of skiing in Switzerland, of course. All right, so digital transformation, that is like actually something which is a really interesting topic in general, because like what we are always talking about is like digitalizing like corporations, and they are pretty much like did a good job on some parts. Governments are struggle a bit, at least in EMEA with that. We are seeing some pockets of success where we are really talking about like a really digitalized like cooperation or like public services, especially when we are talking about like Estonia or like some parts Switzerland as well, as very digitalized already. But what does it mean, especially when we are looking into like the overall readiness of a country? That is why Cisco is providing like a digital readiness compass, where we would say, okay, like get in there, let's have a look into like, okay, where you are with that and where your country is and what we are seeing like as a digital ready country or digital ready economy for it. And especially because like economy is set so much on the level of trust, where we are saying like, okay, digitized doesn't necessarily mean it's a digital economy. And what we are seeing, especially in Europe, is like it is kindly digitized, but we are still very analog on a lot of those ways, right? We are still producing a lot of goods and services, but it's not that we are like really leading in a digital economy in a classical way. Okay, we have Spotify and we have a couple of other like companies in that space, but really truly digitized, we are not, right? We are still lagging behind that pretty heavily. And that is like where we are basically seeing the age of ChatGPT as a tremendous chance. Like sign of hands, ChatGPT, who's using it today? That's a lot. Still more to come. It went mainstream right now. Everyone is a little bit afraid of it, and everyone is screaming like this is going to kill a lot of jobs, and it's probably very true. It also provides a lot of really good answers on a couple of topics, that are especially around like, as like John mentioned yesterday, around like the future of DNS and what it brings, which is interesting. It brings also a lot of questions around like, okay, what can we do with that? And a lot of people are not having a really good idea about that, and they're still thinking like it's a threat for us in general. And then some people coming up and saying like, hey, there's actually something really cool, we can start it and we can getting really creative on it. And then you see use cases that like some lawyers are putting up cases and they're let ChatGPT generate those cases for them to justify their case with the other cases which they generated with ChatGPT, and that is getting something really interesting. But in most of the cases with our organization, we are seeing like that they are like really want to block that stuff out of their network, and they don't want to have it because of all those data privacy issues where we are pretty heavily involved, not only because of GDPR, but because of like several other countries which are giving us like the same market access problems, especially like Saudi Arabia, parts of non-EU countries, part of my country where I'm living in Switzerland, with a huge banking industry, which is pretty much built on confidence, around trust that we are not sending out any data out of the country, which gives us like a huge challenge with ChatGPT, even if you are seeing also huge opportunities with it. So it really picked up like pretty quickly, which I find pretty interesting. I didn't have it on my radar, to be honest, and it's a good reason why it wasn't on my content or on my agenda before, because it's mostly done for content generators, which are getting now crazy with that stuff. I'm not sure if you like have looked into YouTube on what they're producing with that, and if you seeing like all the benefits of it and what is done on the content creating side with that. And that's something which is like getting very interesting. It gets like a lot of really good answers on like ideas, right? It helps you really finding stuff. Even if I don't think it's AI, but it's more machine learning. I'm a huge fan of machine learning instead of AI. Turing machine says hello. But there's also other AI tools which I'm seeing, or which are coming up and which are getting used pretty heavily by this industry in general, right? And if you probably have seen this guy, I've never heard about this label before, Balenciaga, anyone? Like I was looking it up, and this is like, Balenciaga is like a very, let's say, controversial Italian brand for like fashion design. And the reason why I never heard about it, it's like because a t-shirt is around $850. And I said like, all right, if someone pays like $850 for a t-shirt, I hope nobody is wearing one. It's like kind of crazy. But there was like one guy on the internet who started like with several AI tools and created like, and he said basically, okay, how can I create something completely crazy? And as far as I know, that was not created by their marketing department. That was like basically the guy coming up and saying like, tell me the 10 most known characters from Harry Potter. So this is Harry Potter. And put them into Balenciaga clothes, create it like Balenciaga, and give them, based on their speeches and based on what is recorded from their voices, give them exactly the voices with content I created for them. It's still a little bit, it looks a little bit bizarre. I can totally recommend looking it up because it's super interesting. It's not only Harry Potter, it's like everything. To all the gamers in you, it's like even Mortal Kombat and Super Mario, which I found pretty interesting, Enterprise as well. And it is like created within 30 minutes, right? So if you want to really get creative, you can create YouTube videos with, he created around like several of that, like he's making a S-load of money with that right now because of all the clicks, and like just repeating it over and over again. And I'm not sure if Balenciaga marketing is super happy about it, because it's out of their control, and probably some, let's say, trademarks infringements involved in here as well. So they are probably like super unhappy on the other sides because they're getting sued from Warner and from HBO and from Times, from ever, right? I mean, every media creator is like going at them right now, or at him. And he can say like, it's newly created content, it's creativity, et cetera, so he's kind of protected with it. But it's actually, he's making tons of money with it. Like, look it up, it's millions of clicks on those videos. So with that, there comes a lot of drawbacks around that, right? And now it's like, sorry, I'm German, so I'm very critical on everything. And I don't have any humor, but that's a side note. But there comes also like a lot of drawbacks on the AI part. And that is like where we are like identifying like the drawbacks for us, where we are seeing like, okay, this AI doesn't care about like any ethics or any biases or anything like that, right? I mean, it's like there was this AI project when it became racist within 3 days, which was kind of interesting, when they just said like, let's go for it, and it started machine learning, and it became like completely out of scope because nobody is teaching them ethics, right? It just consumes content, and if you're putting something in a bubble of information, it will only consume this bubble of information, and it's hard to get out of this bubble of information, right? So it's like, then how do you really get more and other perspectives to it, and how do you recognize it, right? And this is like what's really, really hard on that side of the business in general with AIs and what we are seeing. So there were drawbacks, and then it became a nightmare. So this is like me talking about security, because like what we are seeing with that right now, it's so tremendously good in writing phishing emails and scam emails. So we had this discussion about DNS abuse. We had the discussion around like, okay, what can we do against it? I'm probably saying like, we can't do a lot against it because it's freaking good in scamming and phishing and everything around it. Because it's, first of all, extremely good in wording and putting like content together. It freaks me out when I'm seeing like, okay, how easy it is to get it created. And in the past, it was like, for us, it was easier because like German is like one of those languages in which not a lot of people are talking to, and like even writing it is even harder than talking. So it was for us, it was like always like, there's a scam email coming in, because like he was like messing it up on like all the language pieces, right? So it was easy to identify, at least for us. And now it's like, all right, I have a problem. And that is like what we are seeing, especially in the German-speaking parts and all the other speaking or like different language-speaking parts in Europe, as a huge threat for us coming in, because like our spam gateways, our like protection mechanisms, which are based on like just behavior analytics, are getting down in the detection rates from every vendor, because it's so highly customized that you can't detect it anymore. It is one email, it's like targeted at your finance person, or not even on the finance person. We had several cases where just like the personal assistant of the CFO was targeted with like a faked identity, saying, can you please like send 100,000 to this specific person, because like we had this part of like a contract with them, and this is like the faked invoice. And it happens. And everyone who knows like legals and banking, if you are sending money, you don't get it back. If it is a credit card fraud, happy days, $50 and off you are. But like in really sending the money, that's like a legally binding term that the other needs to send it back. And if you ever have tried to ask the scammer to send back your money, that's probably a very unlikely event which is going to happen. Yeah. So in that regards, like security-wise, it became a total nightmare for us as like securities professionals. And that is like bringing it to the point that everyone thinks like, oh, my SOC looks like this, right? A lot of monitors, one guy, it's mostly, most of the times one guy, I can tell. And he's like there 24/7, he's like taking care of it, and he's really going for it. He's so well trained, he has so many backups, he has all the tools he needs, he has all the budget he needs. And like, who's seeing this reality? Sign of hand? Oh, you're very brave, I need to talk to you. But that is not the reality in most of the cases. It's more like that, right? So it's like we are talking about like thousands of events, we are talking about like understaffed operations, we are talking about not the right level of tools. And this is like when any of you like looked into log files or event data for like 6 hours more than a day and did this for like 2 years, he's probably either on the way to a zombie or like totally into it. I'm looking for the people which are really totally into it, but mostly it's like zombie stage already. I did it for some time and I was like totally burning out on that part. And it's like crazy. And that is like why we are like really making it so complex, right? I mean, it's like there's some trivial parts, right? And as we are always talking about like domain names, so DNS, we are talking about IPs. Hash values is probably the easiest one. But as farther we go up, we are getting more complications in the SOC and in the parts of the really setting it up, and especially on TTPs. Anyone knows what TTP is? Basically tools, procedures and processes. You can sometimes call it TPP or TTP. And that is like the part of like, okay, I have a SOC, I have a process, and my process needs to work all the time. And I have described it all fine. And it's in my emergency planning, and everyone knows about where to find it. It's on SharePoint, it's password protected, and someone forgot the password, and someone doesn't know what to do anymore because it's not well documented, because we had some gaps, we had some new parts in that in the security measurements, and that was like really then messing it up. And someone forgot to shut down network segments when the ransomware was attacking the network, and then the whole network went fine, and then everyone was on fire, and it's painful. It's extremely painful to really even test those kind of processes in your organization. As bigger it gets, it's more complicated it gets. Not talking even about unmanaged network or network devices in your networks. And that is like why we are really trying to help. And how we are doing this, specifically with Cisco, is that we are have a research organization on our own, Cisco Talos. Cisco Talos is like a privately funded research organization where we are basically combining threat intelligence informations. And maybe you probably know, we have one of the biggest DNS and IP reputation database in the world. Maybe 1 or 2 people have heard about it. If not, you all have heard today. So we are really trying to give actionable like threat intelligence to the community to really make sure that you are making like informed decisions around what you want to do and how an event is to be classified. It has a couple of drawbacks, of course, right? It's like not only IP, it's not only DNS, what you need to do specifically on that parts of security, and even consuming it is like sometimes even more complicated, because like a lot of customers which I'm seeing, like they don't have even the chance of like getting the right level of information stitched together, right? We are talking about like CMs, XDR as a new term of it, or like really tools of like getting them consumed. And most of the times, and this is something which I see, especially with CM customers, is like when they are implementing a CM, they are stuck for years because like they are starting to really remove like false positives. They are starting to implement the processes, the playbooks, the automation, talking about IP or like automation, and that is like always like coming back to the AI discussion. How much can AI or machine learning really help me with that? In a regular basis, it can help me with like the standard stuff. But if I'm really looking into, okay, I need to do something, and my most favorite case, and this is like when we had a discussion with the SOC and said like, okay, how much can we automate? And they said like, dude, what do we want to automate? Like we had like a file, like one of our users were opening a file which had like a SharePoint link in there, which led to a document which was like outside of everything on an FTP, and it created such a security event, and I needed 6 hours to investigate it because that dude didn't pick up this telephone, right? And this is like sometimes really where it comes complicated to searching for it. And that is also why we are like so committed, and this is like giving back to the community in general. And this is like why I like it so much, is like that we are providing a lot of tools which we want to provide to you as security or IT organizations. So Snort as an example. Anyone heard about Snort? That there's like this thing? Version 3, right? So we are just released the newest version of it over 1 or 2 years ago. ClamAV. Is everyone aware that we are having ClamAV? One person, thank you. Which is also like really helping with like building up your own rule sets, right? And this is like getting customized on security is getting even more important to really making sure that you are really preparing yourself with knowledge and informed knowledge around, okay, I can detect a cyber threat in my organization and can really make sure that we are going to a point that we can detect something which is highly customized, which is probably AI generated, where you probably need to ask an AI, is this AI is generated for me? Can we do something against it? But also like several other parts where we are saying like, okay, we can decrypt some of the ransomware tools. And that was actually one of the funniest stories which I ever had, because one of the ransomwares which we found where they said like, this is AES 256, no, it was even more, 1048. It was like highly decrypted and they forgot to decrypt it. So it was not decrypted. So it was just a tool like revamping the tools or the files because it was not decrypted. As I said, they had a mistake in the algorithms as an example. But this is really where we are getting to the point of like, okay, we really want to provide tools. But as you can see, there's a lot of tools which are available, which you need to learn. And this brings me back to the human touch with it. We need to have more people really getting trained on it. And we need to have more people really taking care of the security of a digitalized economy and of a digitalized corporation, and really seeing the opportunity with that. And with that, I'm probably done with my presentation and open for questions, which I heard I need to take at my booth, which is outside. So thank you so much for all your patience and for your time. Really appreciate it. All of you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Morris Wans. Please take your seats. Thank you. And now it is the Q&A with gift section. We are pleased to announce that those who answer correctly will win a special prize, an electronic gift. So later on the screen, we will show the QR code for you. Yes, here you go. So please scan it now, enter the WhatsApp chat room, and send your answer to us. The person who answers correctly and the fastest will be the winner. And our helper will then contact the winner and ask you to come to the stage front for gift redemption. So are you all ready? Let's see the question together. So the question is, security operations are effective and prepared for the consistently changing environment of threats for organizations. What do you think? A, yes, they have the right tools and trainings. Or B, no, they are understaffed and are challenged by not implemented process and procedures. Or C, maybe, I just hope they do the right things, but we are not attacked anyway. So please send us the answer right now, and our staff will contest the winner. Thank you so much for your participation. And now we'll proceed to the next sharing section.